They never expected you to wake up. Not really. They were counting on your silence, on your confusion. Narcissists operate in a realm where truth is negotiable and perception is currency. And when they saw you, the real you, they didn't just feel threatened, they felt exposed. That's the thing most people don't understand. Narcissists don't fear confrontation. They fear clarity. Because clarity is power. And once you begin to see the pattern, once you name what's happening without apologizing for it, the entire game collapses. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." And that's exactly how it works. A narcissist doesn't want you conscious. They want you questioning your worth, doubting your instincts, over-explaining your truth. But the moment you stop playing their game, the moment you respond not with rage, but with quiet recognition, everything shifts. You don't need to shout. You don't need to fight. You need only say one line, one calm, centered truth that pulls the mask off their illusion. It sounds simple, but it's revolutionary. Because narcissists aren't dismantled by argument, they're dismantled by presence. And that line? It isn't magic. It's the boundary you should have never had to state, but now must honor like sacred ground. This first part of your awakening isn't about revenge. It's about reclamation. It's about remembering who you were before the distortion, before the gaslighting, before love was weaponized. They don't want you strong. They want you spinning. Because when you're spinning, you're predictable, easy to disarm, easy to control. But when you pause, breathe, and speak from your center, you become something they can't script around. Jung believed that the greatest threat to darkness is the fully realized self. And you're remembering now. Not just facts or red flags, but your own inner compass. The one they tried to bury under guilt, shame, and obligation. So when you say it, when you finally say it, don't whisper. Don't flinch. Say it with the authority of someone who knows their worth is not up for negotiation. And then watch. Watch how their mask trembles. Watch how the room changes. Watch how your soul exhales. Because the truth doesn't need to scream. It just needs to be said. And sometimes, one line is enough to break an entire illusion. Are you ready? Let's begin.
There comes a moment, quiet, almost imperceptible, when you stop begging to be seen. Not because you no longer care, but because you finally see yourself. And it's in that moment, not the loud ones, filled with arguments or declarations, but the still inner ones, that your life begins to rearrange itself. You start to notice how much of your energy was spent trying to convince people of your worth. You see how you explained yourself to those who had no intention of understanding. How you kept loving people who only knew how to take. And worse, how you believed that was normal, that it was love. But it wasn't. It was survival. A survival learned in early, subtle betrayals, where your truth was too much, your needs too big, your silence praised more than your voice. And so, like many, you shrank to fit, quieted your spirit to keep the peace, and mistook the absence of conflict for connection. Carl Jung once wrote that loneliness doesn't come from being alone. It comes from not being able to express what matters most. And maybe that's why you stayed in places where your soul couldn't breathe. Because even a little recognition, even a sliver of approval, felt safer than the vast unknown of self-trust. But that's what the journey demands. A departure, not from others, but from the version of you that was shaped by their neglect. From the mask you wore to be chosen. From the echo of rejection you kept mistaking for your own voice. There's a cost to coming home to yourself. You will lose comfort. You will lose company. You will lose illusions. But you will gain something far greater: peace. There's a pattern. So many have lived it. You give everything. You forgive easily. You hold space for their storms while yours flood in silence. You are praised for your strength, but rarely supported in your weakness. And somewhere deep down, a quiet resentment grows. Not because you hate them, but because you abandoned yourself to love them. And when you finally wake up to that truth, it doesn't arrive with fireworks. It arrives like a whisper, a soft but undeniable shift. The text you don't send, the call you don't return, the boundary you place without guilt. And in doing so, something sacred begins. You realize love isn't meant to be earned, that peace isn't supposed to be a reward for compliance, that anyone who makes you question your worth when you express your needs is not a healer, but a wound in disguise. Jung believed that the soul demands wholeness, not perfection, and sometimes wholeness looks like walking away, not out of anger, but out of reverence for yourself, for the life you still have left to live. When a narcissist sees you as too strong, they won't celebrate your growth. They will test it. They'll try to provoke you, to pull you back into the web where your worth was measured by how much you could endure. Don't fall for it. That's not a test of love. It's a test of control. And when you stop reacting, when you stop explaining, when you stop trying to win them over, you disrupt the cycle. You teach your nervous system a new rhythm, one where safety comes not from their approval, but from your own presence. The world rarely tells you how powerful it is to stay, not in places that hurt you, but within yourself. To stay with your truth even when it's inconvenient. To stay with your standards even when you're lonely. To stay with your worth even when they try to diminish it. That kind of staying reshapes everything. Because the moment you stop needing validation from people committed to misunderstanding you, you step into a different frequency, a different future. And yes, it's painful. Healing always is. It's not just the letting go that hurts, it's the mourning of the fantasy. The hope that one day they'd change. The belief that if you loved them right, they'd finally see you. But they won't. Not because you're unlovable, but because they're incapable. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the hidden part of us that we avoid. And those who never face theirs project it onto everyone else. You became a screen for their wounds, but you don't have to keep playing the role. You are allowed to stop performing. You are allowed to stop shrinking. You are allowed to take up space, not as a defense, but as a declaration. This is who I am. This is what I need. This is what I will no longer accept. And you say it not with anger, but with clarity. Not with hate, but with finality. You are not here to prove anything. You're here to live. Fully. Deeply. Honestly. There's a kind of strength that doesn't roar. It's not loud. It's not aggressive. It's not performative. It's quiet, steady, unshakable. It's the strength of someone who no longer betrays themselves to be chosen, of someone who can sit in silence rather than chase chaos, of someone who can be alone without being lonely. That's the strength that narcissists fear, because it cannot be manipulated, it cannot be shamed, it cannot be touched. The irony is, once you love yourself enough to walk away, you stop needing to be understood. You stop trying to translate your heart into a language they'll never learn. You stop setting yourself on fire to keep their coldness warm. And in that space, in that sacred quiet, you begin to rebuild. Not a better version of you, but the truest one. And that version doesn't chase. That version attracts. Not because you learned to play the game better, but because you finally stopped playing it. The person who sees that version of you and tries to dim it, they're revealing who they've always been. The one who sees it and honors it, that's the person you never have to perform for. So if you've ever felt too much, too sensitive, too intense, know this: your sensitivity is not a flaw. It's a compass. It tells you when something is off. It tells you when someone's energy is unsafe. It tells you when your soul is shrinking. Listen to it. Trust it. Let it guide you out of places that drain you. Let it guide you home. You don't need to become harder to be loved. You don't need to become quieter to be heard. You don't need to become less to be accepted. You just need to become more you, unapologetically, unwaveringly, unashamedly. The right person, the one who's also done the work, who's met their own shadows, who doesn't need to dim your light to feel seen, will find you, not because you're searching, but because you're shining. And when they do, you'll know this is what love was always meant to feel like. A sanctuary, not a war. And if you're still in the trenches, still fighting to believe you're worthy, still unlearning the lies you were fed, hold on. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are on the path, and the path is sacred. Stay with it.
There comes a moment, often unnoticed on the surface, when the soul can no longer pretend. It is not a scream or a dramatic break. It is quieter, a slow undoing, a gentle tearing at the edges of who you thought you were. And yet, within that unraveling, there is a kind of divine clarity, like mist parting after years of wandering blind. This is not something you can plan for. It doesn't show up on your calendar, but it happens. And when it does, something deep within you whispers, it's time to come home. Home not to a place or a person, but to yourself, to the parts of you that were silenced for the sake of peace, to the dreams you buried in exchange for belonging, to the anger you swallowed in order to be accepted, to the love you denied yourself because someone once convinced you it was selfish to ask for more. Carl Jung once said that we are not what happened to us, we are what we choose to become. But becoming isn't always graceful. It's not always about building. Sometimes it's about undoing, releasing, shedding the weight of roles that no longer serve you. Because there is a cost to living a life that isn't yours. And that cost always arrives, sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once. There are people walking the earth right now who have everything they once thought they wanted and yet feel empty. Why? Because they traded their soul for safety.
They built their identity around someone else's approval. They chased success not because it fulfilled them, but because it silenced the fear of not being enough. And now that they've arrived, they're more lost than ever. But here's the truth that no one wants to say out loud. You were never meant to live at war with yourself. Every time you betray your own needs, you teach your nervous system that your voice doesn't matter. Every time you shrink to make someone else comfortable, you chip away at the foundation of your self-worth. And every time you abandon your intuition, you reinforce a belief that someone else knows what's best for your life. But no one lives inside your skin. No one carries your memories. No one hears your thoughts at 2 a.m. when you're wide awake, questioning everything. Only you. And that means only you can reclaim what you've handed away. There is a sacred moment, and you might be feeling it now, where you realize that healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. The child who laughed without guilt, who cried without shame, who dreamed without fear. That part of you didn't die. It went into hiding, waiting, watching, hoping you'd come back for it. And maybe that's why you're here, because something in you knows this isn't just another video. It's a mirror, a whisper, a sacred reminder that you're allowed to feel more, want more, be more. That you are not broken, you are breaking open. That this ache inside you is not weakness, it's a signal. It's the soul's way of saying, we can't keep living like this. There's nothing wrong with being tired. There's nothing wrong with not having all the answers, but there is something wrong with pretending you're okay when you're not, with wearing strengths like armor while bleeding inside. You deserve more than survival. You deserve aliveness. The kind of life where your yes means something and your no is respected. The kind of love that doesn't make you smaller. The kind of peace that isn't earned through people-pleasing. The kind of joy that isn't followed by guilt. But in order to receive that, you must first believe that you're worthy of it. And that belief? It doesn't come from the outside. It doesn't come from likes or followers or validation. It comes from sitting with yourself in silence, from holding your pain without judgment, from speaking your truth, even if your voice shakes. Because when you stop running from yourself, something miraculous happens. You stop running from others too. You begin to show up with presence, with honesty, with depth, and people feel it. They may not understand it, but they sense something different about you. You become a mirror, not of perfection, but of permission. Permission to be real, to be raw, to be seen. And in that seeing, you begin to attract relationships that reflect your worth instead of your wounds. You start calling in people who meet you with respect, not control. Who listen to understand, not to fix. Who stand beside you, not because they need you, but because they want to. This is the power of coming home to yourself. But the journey doesn't end here. It never does. There will always be more layers to peel back, more truths to uncover, more parts of yourself to love. That's the beauty of the soul. It is infinite, eternal, ever unfolding. And if you've made it this far, if your heart is still open, if your eyes are still searching, then you're already doing the work of healing, of remembering, of reclaiming. So let me leave you with this. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not too late. You are exactly who you need to be in exactly this moment to begin again. If this message found you in a quiet moment, if it stirred something inside you that you didn't know had words, then don't let it fade. Let it anchor. Let it guide. Let it grow. And if you felt seen here, really seen, I want you to know you're not alone. There's a community here of souls who are waking up, who are tired of performing, who are ready to live. If that's you, I invite you to subscribe not just to a channel, but to a deeper way of being. Activate the bell, join the movement. Let this be the moment you choose yourself. Because when you do, when you truly choose yourself, the right people, the right path, the right peace will find you, not by force, but by resonance. And that is where everything begins.